Have you ever wondered what really happens once you're under contract? From surprise liens to last-minute heroics, we're sitting down with April Dodd of Closed Title to hear the wild, weird, and eye-opening stories from behind the scenes in title. Welcome to Keeping Your Real Estate Business on Track. I'm here today with April Dodd. She is from Closed Title. She is a licensed title agent here in Viera, Rockledge area. Thanks so much for joining us today, April.
Thank you so much for having me.
April is a wealth of knowledge. She brings over 20 plus years of experience from the title industry here. Originally from Ohio, but moved to Brevard County in 2004. And she's known for her calm, caring demeanor and meticulous attention to detail. She has actually facilitated over 10,000 transactions in her career. Wow.
Yeah, that's exciting. That was a shocking number to hear, but very, very proud of it.
Yeah, we were sitting here trying to do the math, and I just don't know how it's physically possible to do that much, but incredible. So, our podcast topic today is talking about tales from the closing table. It kind of sounds a little bit like Tales from the Crypt, right? So we're talking about what title work or how title works and what it really looks like. So you've seen a lot of closings, clearly with over 10,000 in your entire career. Can you share a moment in your experience when everything almost fell apart at the closing table? What happened and how did you resolve it?
There's so many. So during that time frame, I've come across a lot, but one that sticks in mind was actually a walkthrough. So all parties are sellers sign, buyers are at the closing table, and they're furious, and no one's really talking about what happened. And, we have an hour time slot for them and their paperwork, and they're refusing to sign.
Are you just feeling the energy here, or was it written all over their face?
It's hard because this is a happy day, and, these people are just angry. Yeah. And they did the walkthrough, and the sellers had very large furniture. And when they moved everything out, nothing was painted. So when they had the house painted, it was painted around.
Yeah.
And they walked through the house, and there are all these huge spots where this large furniture was that was just blank. And they wanted the whole house repainted, and it became this whole issue, but they were refusing to sign until there was resolution.
Oh, goodness.
So the agents stepped in. It took a little while. We let them take their time in the conference room, and the agents established a credit that everyone thought was fair and everyone was happy with. But that's always hard because you don't know how that walkthrough is going to go. So as prepared as I can be on my end, documents predated, we're ready to go. If something happens there, it changes the whole scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we always want everyone to be happy, and the agents really stepped in and came to that amazing resolution where everyone walked away. The sellers felt it was fair. The buyers were happy with what they got, and they get their house painted. So.
Thank goodness.
But that was a new one. That was one that I hadn't come across before.
I'm sure you've come across a ton of crazy ones. What is one of the strangest or most unexpected title issues that you've ever uncovered during a deal?
So lately, I want to say in the past 4 years, fraud is probably the most unusual and difficult thing that we're dealing with. But I had a client, a seller, or he was claiming to be the seller of a property, and we had taken a few security measures, and we got to the point where I was going to have a Zoom call with this individual. And he was brazen enough to have a Zoom conference call with me and giving me details to the property, to the transaction he was very familiar with. And then we started asking questions on a security list that we have and could tell that he was getting more nervous, kind of fidgeting. The last one I asked if he could reconfirm his birth date for me. And that's something that you should know.
You don't forget your birth date.
But he didn't know the birth date on the fake ID, and he stumbled with it. But it's hard because from going to handling a transaction, facilitating it, doing the title work, meeting with clients, you actually have to be, somewhat of a detective and try to decipher if these people are on the up and up. Mm-hmm. And it's hard because sometimes you're actually talking to the seller and they're like, why are you interrogating me? Why are you asking me all these questions? But, it's our job to ensure that this is the individual they say that they are.
Right.
So that was probably having that Zoom conference, and that was difficult, just figuring out that he wasn't who he said he was.
And the awkward moment, too, where you start to uncover it. It's like, how do you move forward from that and saying, I know that you're lying?
Yeah. Just like, I think I didn't even tell him. I said, I think we've gathered enough information. We'll be in touch. And I contacted the agent immediately, and I said, we're not comfortable moving forward with the transaction. And then it turns out a week later, we sent a certified letter to the address on the property appraiser. The real seller called us. And she notified us that the property was not, in fact, for sale. She had been traveling.
Wow.
She received the letter and wanted to notify us.
Wow. Well, good work, Detective Dodd. So take us back to your very first closing, if you can go back there. What do you remember most about it, and how does it compare to how you run your business now?
So my first real estate closing, I was actually on the buyer's side. So I was 23 years old. I was a first-time home buyer. I was extremely nervous and excited, but just more nervous, I would say, than anything. And the closing was so cold and very much just point and sign. They didn't go over anything in detail. It wasn't really a special moment. And from that day forward, I said that I would handle closings in a different manner and put a personal touch on it and take my time with clients, make sure that they're informed, but also that I'm willing to answer any questions they have. And I said I just wanted to change how real estate transactions, or the closing aspect of it, was handled moving forward.
Yeah. I love that. In this business, it can become very transactional. When you do 10,000 closings, or, we do, hundreds, thousands of loans, real estate partners, they do hundreds of transactions, thousands of transactions. It's funny because you forget sometimes on your 100th or 500th that this is their first time. So you have to show up the same as you would on your first transaction as you would on your 500th transaction, right?
Real estate isn't always a celebration. So you want to know the details of the transaction to personalize it and make it special for the buyers and sellers. We think of it, as always a first-time home buyer, but sometimes a home is being sold due to a death or a divorce, and you want to make sure that you handle these clients with care when they come in.
Mm-hmm. That's the level of professionalism that we talked about before.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have you ever had to deliver bad news right before a closing, and how did you handle it?
Yes. So there have been a couple of instances. One that I recall, the gentleman was in the lobby, and he was buying a home, and the lender contacted me and said, you can't move forward with the closing. And when I asked why, the individual had made a large purchase.
Oh, no.
The day before closing, and when that, came across, when they ran everything and they updated it, I had to inform him that the closing couldn't move forward. So I just asked him to come into my office, and I said, we just needed to discuss this with your lender. He was heartbroken. No one told him. And this was, several years ago, but no one had mentioned not to make a large purchase. He was buying a new home and very excited about it. Fortunately, he was able to move forward. He got a co-signer, and we saw him back like a week later. I think it didn't take too much. They turned it around, and it turned out to be a happy story and a lesson learned for him and everybody involved. Yeah. But, it ended up in a good situation.
Do you remember what the large purchase was?
A motorcycle.
No.
A motorcycle. Yeah. He had to have that motorcycle to go with his new house. So, but lesson learned for sure.
Motorcycle after the purchase of the house.
That's right.
In your experience, what's one lesson that buyers, agents, or even other title professionals usually learn the hard way, and what do you wish they knew sooner?
I would say who you're partnering with, who you're working with, your tribe when you're going into these transactions. Every piece of it has such an important role. And if you have one weak link in that transaction, it can sabotage it.
Yeah.
We all play just such a huge role. So who you're aligning yourself with, make sure you're working with the most professional people in the industry that are credible, that are reputable, that have the experience, and that care about your clients as much as you do.
Yes.
Our industry is referral based. And we live in a very small town. So your reputation is everything. And you want to make sure that you're upholding yourself in that manner.
Yeah, that's what we love so much about the hidden gem that is Brevard County. That's actually not so much of a hidden gem these days, but it's the fact that while we are so large, we still operate very small town, and the fact that, you know, you align yourself with people and you lock arms and you find people that you trust that will do things the same way.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for joining us today, April. Again, you are a wealth of knowledge, and thank you for being here. For those of you that have picked up one little nugget that you can implement in your business today, please like, subscribe, and join us for the next episode of Keeping Your Real Estate Business on Track.